I've been with my wife for 7 years. At first, it was great. She was my soulmate and I was hers. We had similar interests in sports, entertainment, social issues. More on that later. Holiday destinations, etc. We were happy for years. However, things started to change when my wife was becoming more distant, even slightly colder. Now let me give you some insight. We have been together for 7 years. For 5 years it was, as I said, happy. I felt I was her world as she was mine. We went out with friends and I see her always smiling at me when we talked to our friends. She would take care of me when I was sick, as I did with her. She would back me whenever needed. She was my rock, my best friend, my one and only. We would do many things together like hiking, camping, wildlife resorts, same interests. Go to watch the football. We had a passion for each other. I never wanted her to change. When I first met her, she was beautiful, brunette, curly hair, stunning smile, and so nice. She always implied the same with me. She made me feel special. Not once did I feel inadequate or insecure about myself. More on that later. As I said, for over 5 years it was great. But things started to change when her new supervisor started at her work. I'm calling him Margie's 30 now. At first, she would come home and talk about massages. She would say that he's funny and makes people feel good. Of course, I was slightly taken aback at first because she would usually come home and ask about my day and hers, but she immediately talked about massages straight away. However, at the time I brushed it off. As someone who is new as her work, she sees the same faces for years. So when Marjo showed up, it was refreshing. Weeks pass and my wife seems to be more distant and secretive. She would go out to work nights, which didn't bother me as she went on plenty before. However, we were meant to go out to a mutual friend's house for drinks. He is in a bad way as he has been diagnosed with a disease that is severe. My wife, as I said, is a rock, usually really empathetic and supportive. So when we found out about our friend Daniel, 32, we didn't hesitate to go over and show our support. The night came to go over and my wife was running late from work night out. I called her a few times and no answer. I texted her no answer. After waiting, I decided to go to Daniel's myself. Daniel and I talked about how he's adapting and coping during that time. I felt for Daniel, such a nice guy, to have this is cruel. Afterwards I got home and I'm seething. My wife is still not home. No missed calls or texts, seriously. I couldn't believe it. I was getting worried if she's been in an accident. So I called her work colleague, Jane, 28. I get on with Jane and asked her if Kelly, my wife, is out with her. Jane said that she is, but Jane went home and it was just her and Margus left out. I was angry, so angry. We have known Daniel for years and she would skip meeting our friend over a guy she just met. I kept telling myself, there is an explanation for this. I waited until she got home. Eventually, she arrived home and saw me in the living room looking at her. What's wrong? Everything okay? I looked her in bemusement and said, Daniel? She looked mortified. I'm sorry, I forgot. I was out with work, friends, and lost track of time. She looked sincere. Her and Daniel are good friends, so maybe she did forget. I did ask her a question. Who was out with you? She replied usual Jane, Sophie, 30, etc. I replied not Margus. Oh yes, he was there. I pressed on, remembering what Jane said. Did everyone stay out until the end? She replied, yes, it was a good night. The next day, I'm angry. I don't say anything to my wife, but she has never lied to me before. She has never let anyone down before. I couldn't grasp that she would bail on our sick friend for a guy she just met. The next few days, my wife was becoming more distant. She would come home later and not be affectionate towards me. I still put this down to workload, maybe, but when she got home she would be in her phone constantly. I asked her, who is it that you're always texting? Just a friend from work, she said. I asked her, is it Margus? No, she said, but what's the problem if it is? I never seen my wife get defensive like this. But I was going to be honest, I replied, because you never shut up about him. He's been working with you for under a month and you seem to idolize him. Your face sparkles when you talked about him so much so you forgot about Daniel. I could tell I hit the spot, she replied. No, I do not idolize Margus. He's nice, but just a friend. And I apologize to Daniel already.